Welcome back to Computer Programming in C++. Today we're looking at using arrays as function arguments. I'm going to go right over to a program. Get rid of that. A program I've started. In this program, I've initialized an array so that the value at every location in the array is equal to the index value. So the value in slot number 0 is equal to 0. The value in slot 1 is equal to 1, and so on. And like I did in the previous videos, I want to create a function that will print these values out to the screen. But unlike that, I want to actually do this as a separate function rather than just a loop within the main menu. That way, if I want to print later, I can do that again and keep calling on the function. So I'm going to go down below after the main function and create a new function to print these values out. Now this function will not return a value to the calling function, so I'll give it a data type void. I'll call it display. Now I want this value to take in an array, in fact this array up here, and then use it later on. So what I'm going to do is have it take in an array. It doesn't need to have the same name. So just to demonstrate that, I'll just call it num. It does need braces. The compiler does need to know that this function will take in an array as input. Otherwise, it's looking for a single item, and an array is not a single item. No semicolon there. Now I put in braces to begin and end. And then within, I will do the same thing I was doing up above. Oh, I need to declare counter. It's a local variable. I'll call this one count. I could call it counter again, but I'd like to keep the variable names different if they're actually different variables. So count equals 0, count less than 10, count plus plus. And then let's see out. We're going to then access this array, which is called num. It's really kind of like a copy of that. It's not exactly a copy, but I'll get to that later. But it has the name num, and then we'll go through the count and print these out one at a time. Put an end line in there, and let's try putting comments on this. Display array. Let's try building. Whoa, no. Okay, so I've got a lot of mistakes to fix up. So it might just be one. That often happens. Expected initializer before 4. You probably spotted it before me. Missing a semicolon. Let's see what that does. Getting closer. This does show you that this is actually me programming. Oh, and I completely forgot the most important parts. Why am I building at this point? I'm not done yet. I need to let my program know that this array is coming. And I did some worse things as well. I forgot data type down here. I'll let this go. I don't need to re-record, but you can see mistakes I was making. Here, up in the prototype, I match the data types. I don't need a variable name, but I do need indication that this is an array. And I do put a semicolon after that. And the other thing I should do is I should actually use this function. So let's go over here and run the display function. And in parentheses, I will pass it the array called values. All right, let's try that. Much, much better. And it does print out. We have the values 0 through 9 for this 10 slots of array numbered 0 through 9. That's perfect. Much better this time around. Now, I'm going to create another function so we can see what happens if I actually edit the values of an array. So I'll just call this one, and this time I'm going to remember up here. I'll call it times 5. Guess what I'm going to do? You might have guessed it. I'm going to take every array value and multiply it by 5. It is going to take in the array, and then let me create the function down below. Typo up there, fix that. I'll call this num again, because we won't be running both functions at the same time. Doesn't bother me. We need a counter again. And then we'll set up the same info at the beginning. But what I'll do in this case is for every value in the array, so I'll say num, and then in the brackets I'll put count. So we'll go through each array item one by one. We'll multiply it by 5. Times equals 5. And that way we'll store it back in. I don't need a return because it's a void function. I do need an end brace here. And now let's call the times 5 function. I'll worry about comments later because this video is going long already. So take in values. And now what I want to do is display again. I can run the display function more than once. It's a nice feature about this. Let's see if I set this up correctly. Okay, look at this. We had 0 through 9, and now I have 0 through 45. This is a very important difference between passing a single number to an array and passing a single number to a function and passing an entire array to a function. When you pass a single number to a function, the compiler makes a copy of that number, then does the work, but it doesn't mess with the original. That doesn't happen with arrays. What happens with an array is that actually you're linked to the address location of the original array, so that any changes made within the function change the original array. You need to be very aware of this if you're using arrays with functions, that you don't have a safe copy. You can make a copy. You can even create a function that makes a copy, but it doesn't automatically make a copy. And that really helps actually save quite a bit on memory when arrays get large. Making entire copies could use up a lot of memory and take a lot of time. It saves on both. But be aware of that. The changes made within the function actually change the original array called values. Even though I gave it a different name here, it links to the same memory location. It sent us right to the same place. So be wary